Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Sheneka Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. I am your host, Dr. Sheneka, and let's get you all caught up. So I think I mentioned last episode, let's be honest, y'all, I don't always be re-listening to the episodes to know where we are in the story, but I'm currently the medical director of a private clinic in New York and a private peds clinic. And I have submitted my resignation from the medical director position. And so I want to talk about this because I realize there's so much overlap in how I landed here and how I'm handling it with my identity, the overlap with the identities with me as a Black woman in America. And so I want to talk about that. I think I read an email actually from Lovey Ajayi Jones. If you don't follow her on Instagram or you're not on her platform, you should be. 'Cause not that everything everyone says is right? Whenever you listen to someone, including me, you take everything with a grain of salt. But I find that some of her reflections are so descriptive of what I'm going through. And this week's email that she sent, by the time you listen to it, it'll be last week's email. But was so poignant for me. And it talks about being a Black woman and being hypervigilant. So I'm going to read a portion of her email. I hope that's allowed. I don't know the correct format for copyright, but I am attributing it to Lovey Ajayi Jones. So I'm not stealing her stuff. But I do want to read this excerpt from her email. You should be on her email list because it's good. So the title of this section of her email is called Unlearning Hypervigilance in These Unprecedented Times is Hard, but Necessary. And I was like, oof, hypervigilance. I feel like when I go to work, I present a certain side of myself. Everyone does, right? Like your work self is not your home self. It's not yourself with your friends. It's not yourself with your family. But the work self, depending on the environment, and me being in the environment that I am, which is a diverse work environment, but predominantly say it's a PWI. I think that there's a masking that happens, right? You are part yourself, and I tend to lean into myself, especially around the staff. But with patients, with the practice owners, like there's a part of yourself that you are masking, right? And you are super alert about everything, like anything that happens. Is it because of gender? Is it because of race? And these are things that you have to constantly be considering because those are the realities of the world we live in. Her email says, imagine trying to unlearn hypervigilance in this cruel world. I've been in therapy doing deep, necessary, uncomfortable work of it because as a Black woman, there are more traps than we can count. That constant, exhausting state of being on full alert, watching every move, anticipating every trap wears us down. Doing everything right so no one can find a reason to dismiss or discard you, it is frying to our nervous system. And I want to pause here because that is so much of my experience as the medical director. So I took notes, but clearly I'm just going to do this out of order. But in 2025, January, I became the medical director of practice, having seen some things that required improvement, things that I knew I could help with. And yeah, so that was like the whole goal, right? And I felt at the time that even though I didn't have experience as a medical director, that it was something that I could do because I've been an entrepreneur, I've been a leader in other roles, right? There's so many things that have prepared me for this type of position. And it doesn't have to be a direct medical director to the medical director translation. And I really want to emphasize that part because so many times we talk ourselves out of taking opportunities, or we tell ourselves that we are unqualified, or we only know how to doctor. We only know how to do this very narrow skill set that we've been trained to do. And that simply is not true. I think as a doctor, I've talked about this on this podcast many times before. You are the captain of the ship, right? When it comes down to it, the liability is on you. When you are in a position, even if you're not the boss, you still have the opportunity to lead. You are still a leader. No matter what position you're in, no matter what job you're in, you have an opportunity to lead by example. And as I was talking to myself about taking this job, of course the doubts pop in, right? Of course there's like this notion of, well, you've never done this before. Do you really understand what this all entails? What are the things that you don't know? There's that, I forget what it's called. I don't know if it's a SWOT analysis. It's like that cube where it's like known versus like known unknowns. Like I know what I don't know. And then there's like the unknown knowns, things that I don't realize I know. And then the unknown unknowns. And I feel like my brain tends to linger in the unknown unknowns. What do I not even know that I don't know? What are the things I'm going to miss because I don't even realize that those are things? And sometimes that is also caused by like my known unknowns, right? Like things that I don't even realize that I know. And so sometimes I have to spend time focusing on that box of, okay, yeah, I haven't been a medical director before, but what are the experiences? What are the kind of skills that I can pull from previous roles that would allow me to be successful in this position? So I did that with myself. I don't even know if it was intentional, but it was part of that self-talk that I had with myself when I was gearing up for this position. And I wanted to, of course, I wanted to succeed. And like, I wanted to allow myself some grace because I knew I wasn't going to get everything right. And things were going to be bumpy. Things were already bumpy. So in my mind, it just couldn't get any worse. So I took that position under that premise. And there were things I was able to change like instantaneously. Like I hit the ground running. We implemented so many technological changes, so many advancements, wrote so many policies. Like I did so much foundation work that just hadn't been in existence because maybe there hadn't been time or people didn't have the know-how. I don't know why it wasn't in place, but I did it. And I don't want to discount that because I think one of the hypervigilance things that I've been doing is that I've been trying to downplay my expertise and my role for fear of making my practice owner feel bad. And that is a person who tends to carry that kind of load, right? If things are wrong, she feels bad. And if things are going right, she feels bad that she wasn't able to do it. And that kind of environment, like, I was going to say I should have recognized it from the beginning, but that's a lie. Like, you don't know until you know, and stop judging yourself, Sheneka. Okay. That kind of environment, I think, generally does not lean to success because I cannot fully be the light that I want to be. I end up dimming my light in order to accommodate the feelings of someone else. Okay. So that's part of the hypervigilance. So I think because of that, because of the workload, and like I was in terms of negotiation, because I know you guys like to listen for the negotiation aspect, I negotiated for top dollar because I knew it was going to be a lot of work. And I never want to be in the position of feeling like I should be getting paid more for this. Like this is some BS, right? So I negotiated top dollar. I still kept my part-time schedule. I still charged him hourly because I knew, when you're in an administrative position, that time that you allot for things is going to bleed out of that little time slot, right? There's no way to do everything within my 3-day a week schedule. I already knew that. So knowing that I potentially was going to end up doing some work on some other days, taking calls from staff or hopping on emergency situations, I made sure I charged by the hour. So I think foundationally, I set myself up for success in those ways. Those are the things that I already know how to do. I've had experience with that. I prepped myself. I was able to do that. Okay. The nuance to it is that this hypervigilance takes a lot of mental load. The first time I sent out a newsletter for the staff, because that was part of our team complaint, was that nobody knew what was going on. We branched into 2 different offices and there wasn't great communication between the 2 locations. It was the same staff, same body of people, but no one knew what was happening where and what and like all of that. So I thought, okay, we need a couple of ways to communicate better. And one of them is going to be a weekly staff email, and the other one is going to be a monthly staff meeting because we weren't doing morning check-ins or any of these things. But how do we improve communication between the staff? And so I sent out this newsletter and I'm like, yes, this is great. I created Google Workspace for this company. I got every staff their own email address. We created listservs. Like I did all this foundational work to be able to send out this email. I crafted this email. I spent so much time creating the template for it, trying to match the color schemes to the practice color schemes, like all of this thing. So when it was done, I was really proud of the work that I did. Like I spent a lot of time coming up with this thing, thinking about what's going to be pertinent to staff, what sections that I want to have that are going to be repeats for staff, like how is this going to be pertinent, how to keep it short so people actually want to read it, because who the heck wants to read an email first thing Monday morning? Let's be real. Did all of that, sent out the first email, felt really good about it. And the first comment I got back was like, oh, this is great, but I wish I had more of a role in it. And that, honestly, that hurt me because I'm like, here I am busting my behind, and you cannot see how great this is for the company. All you can see is how you feel like you don't have a voice in something that you didn't help to create, that you had no input on, no ideas on, nothing. And I invited you to contribute to, but didn't. But you wanted it to seem like it was coming from you and not from me. And I don't play that. If I'm writing something, if I'm working on something, I deserve the credit. I'm taking the credit. But it wasn't even written in that form. It was just written like it was from me, which it was. Okay. So I felt like that was one of the first instances. And I had seen patterns of that before, right? Like there were times where we hosted things for staff. Staff was leaving. We hosted a party. We'd buy gifts and cards and things, not coming from that individual, just coming from us. And that person saying they wish they were included. And they were told in advance, but they chose not to do anything. Like this, there's this victimhood identity that is wearing to the people around you. If you are this person, stop it. Because if you know about something, or if you have the access to the information to know about something, and then you blame other people for not repeatedly asking you to be involved in some way, like honestly, that's some bullshit. Like it really is. And it's exhausting. And that is a pattern that has happened over and over throughout the course of the year. And I think I thought I could navigate that. And like when you know a person, you're like, it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right? You know things that are happening, you know how to deal with them, but knowing how to deal with someone does not make it less exhausting and does not remove the wear and tear on your nervous system. And so that's what I'm learning, right? It's like, even though I know how to deal with this person, even though I understand this person's personality, I understand their Amy, right? Like I understand her negative self-talk. I understand the doubts. I understand all the things that she's experiencing. But the fact that that person won't do anything to fix it is a problem. Like it really is. It's honestly, it's just exhausting. And this is a person I still work with. So y'all are getting the cutting edge, real deal information, at risk, of course, to myself and my potential career. But I also believe, having been an entrepreneur, that I know how to make money and I know how to sustain myself, and I'm going to be all right either way. So I'm just going to be courageous in this way and talk about it. And my nervous system is in a fritz about this, right? Because this does not feel safe in any way, shape, or form to be talking about this while I still work in a place. Okay. I'm going to trust y'all not to be blasting me, but this is what it is. Okay. Going back to the email, just so I can check back in. So Lovey Ajay goes back and she says, that's a hard thing to heal through, right? Because the threat is real. I'm not imagining it. You're not imagining it. Every time you start to relax, something happens that puts your nervous system right back on high alert. People make it very hard. And then she goes on to talk about how this week happens, and this week with Jasmine Crockett, or last week with Jasmine Crockett, being the most qualified, sharpest, most prepared woman in political spaces, lost the Senate primary race in Texas to a white man who had no national political experience. And I thought about that because, as far as I know, in all of my experiences, most white people fail. I was watching a clip today, and I don't even remember her name, like Wilford Glory. She's someone on Instagram that I just discovered. She runs a purse brand, and she's starting to dip into philanthropy because she feels like Black women entrepreneurs do not have the capital to fail the way white men do. In that Uber was not profitable for the first 14 years of their business. This is the information she was sharing. But people continue to give them money, right? A Black woman doesn't fails one time, and everybody talks about how there's so much nuance in how she didn't do this and that and that. And we saw that with Kamala Harris in the last presidential election. She was the most qualified. She had all this experience, but there was all these little petty arguments about her track record and decisions she made, and almost trying to like dumb her down to the point of being equivalent to Donald Trump, of like the lesser of two evils. Now we have seen day to day, week to week, why that is not true. Because that man came in with zero political experience in his first term. But because it was a woman he was running against, which was Hillary Clinton, he won. Second term, he's running against Kamala, and again, he wins because people love to talk about Black women, talk about women, and discount the work that they've done. So she talks about that, right, in this email. She says, meanwhile, Habanero Hitler showed up with, oh, sorry, I missed the part. After she lost the election, after Jasmine Crockett lost this Texas Senate race, people came online to talk about nuance and about what she didn't do and about what she could have done differently. And that's like literally the story. Meanwhile, Habanero Hitler showed up again with no plan. Remember, it was like concepts of a plan, no policy, no coherence, and still won the presidency twice. White male failed. I don't think it's just white men. Actually, in my experience, the first time I learned this, it was white women. White women failed also. They have way more room for error, right? She says, but y'all want Black women to be perfect in every single way and to give us, in every single way, in order to give us a chance at anything. And if we're not perfect, the pile-on begins. And it's not just politics, right? Hanifa, a brilliant Black-owned fashion brand, had some challenges on shipping their pre-orders. And the people wiped the floor with them, not just criticism, vitriol. The kind of disproportionate, sustained, relentless pile-on that we reserve specifically for Black women and Black-owned businesses who make a mistake that any other brand would survive without a second thought. And now she's taking a break from the company. Poor Hanifa, honestly. I would take a break too, because y'all don't deserve. I watched it happen to so many of us. We have to double and triple check everything, otherwise we get scalped. And that is why hypervigilance makes sense. That is what our nervous system stays on high alert. That is why our nervous system stays on high alert. The world keeps proving that it's warranted, and that's exactly why it's costing us everything to hold it. The hypervigilance was never going to protect us. It was just going to exhaust us. And I think about one of the straws that broke the camel's back for me in this position was the business. We've been talking about how to increase profits or how to like not be in such of a deficit. And part of that for me, part of that strategy for me is careful hiring, right? Like we honestly have way more support staff than we need for the business we're running, for the patients we have. And a lot of our staff is not always efficient. And so evaluating that, figuring out how to, because HR is always a company's biggest expense. So evaluating that, being able to make like decisions on that, I have not been allowed to do. And that is our biggest cost. So instead, I've been allowed to make small changes, right? Like small spends, like how we use a locums doctor. So we got into an argument because we had decided we're going to reduce how much we use locums. But I make my schedule 6 months in advance, the clinic schedule. And I don't want to rush this part of the story, but I'm also kind of running late. So we're going to try to do this. But the point is, I hired a locum stock on a day that we probably didn't need the locum stock. And I did not go back to review the schedule after we collectively make the decision to not use locum stock when we have multiple providers. And so it was a Thursday, it's a day we have 3 providers instead of 2. And I had a locum stock on schedule. So that probably cost about $1,500 to basically have this person come in who we don't assign well visits to. We only assign sick visits to. And I don't think they saw that many patients. So that was the argument that like, why was this person on the schedule? I got this email, 5 paragraphs, degrading my decision-making, talking about how it was an egregious misuse of funds, all of this stuff, like piling it on, like the level of response to this potential overspend was not in proportion to the overspend that has been happening in this clinic. I could think about so many examples, including the fact that we were in the process of hiring a nurse. We only need one because, again, we have too many people. We had 2 great candidates, and the suggestion was to hire both. I'm like, that's going to cost us $200,000. Like each nurse is almost $100,000, right? So like a little less than 200,000. But like you're willing to spend an additional almost $100,000 to hire a person we don't really need. And you are blasting the crap out of me for $1,500. And it's like, there's no room for me to make a mistake. And they don't see that, right? Like they don't understand that because they have endless room. They have been making mistakes for years and it has not detrimentally affected them. No one told them that they were doing a shitty job. No one took away their company. No one asked to pay them less. They're asking to pay me less. No one, like there was just no repercussions for it. And the practice has continued to grow. They've continued to hire poorly. They've continued to make bad decisions. They've continued to manage poorly. And there is no repercussion. And not to say I shouldn't be called out on this mistake, because it was a mistake. And I have no problem with that. I know exactly what happened and I know exactly why it happened. But why did you pour gas on me like that? And to me, I'm like, I'm so deeply hurt that I try so hard for this place and they have zero appreciation of me. And then I get gaslit about being able to make decisions. Like, that's not the place for me. Like, that is exhausting. And Lovey captures this in its essence, which is doing everything right doesn't always get you the thing. And I thought, like, I'm trying my best to do everything right. I'm trying my best to improve everything. And every improvement I make is not really for my benefit. It is partially, but at the ultimate end of it, this is not my company, right? So the benefit is theirs. So if I'm working really, really hard, would you not want to give me the benefit of the doubt? It's not. So doing everything right doesn't always get you the thing. The system was built to require our perfection and then move the goalposts anyway. So if the hypervigilance isn't protecting you, and it is definitely costing you your peace of mind, your ability to move forward, and sometimes your money, the only real answer is you accept that it can't save you, and then you do what you feel called to do regardless. You say F it. You cannot pour out goodness from a body that has been clenched for decades. Drop your shoulders, not because the world got safer, but because you decided to stop waiting for people to approve everything you do. You will make mistakes. You will be projected on. You will be misunderstood. It is the price to pay to being human. It's just the price to pay to being human. Allow yourself to be imperfect, but commit to growth. That's it. Lean on your village and know that the system's inability to properly see and value you is not a verdict on your worth. It is a verdict on the system. Oh, child, if that ain't a message, that will preach. Okay? Like, I feel so seen. Sometimes you have to be, this is why I say create the social media algorithm that supports you, because I don't know this person, but like she is literally capturing my experience with words and she's talking about a totally different scenario, but it applies to me because my identity is so similar to that of the people around whom she's discussing. I am deeply disappointed with my experience. I actually like cried about it because I was so frustrated feeling that I'm trying so hard and I'm being penalized disproportionate to my successes. I don't get accolades for my successes, barely. And if they are accolading, it's tinged with kind of like you're expected to do this. And also, this is so great. And oh gosh, I'm so like there's some denigration from that person about why she couldn't do what I could do. Like it's just wrapped up in mess. There's no true validation there. And I also emphasize a lot on this podcast the importance of internal validation. It is up to you to know when you are doing a good job. You have to create your own metrics. You have to decide when you are successful because sometimes you're going to be in places where no one is going to tell you that you were successful. And the minute you make a mistake, they're going to rain all over your parade. And if you have no balance, you have not been keeping track of how well you have been doing and that this is a one setback, you will internalize their criticism and feel like you are not doing a good job. And you will feel like you are not prepared or qualified for a position. And your internal self-talk will then turn to negative statements about your worth, your ability, and it will ruin you and it will damage your self-esteem and it will make you depressed and anxious and all of the things. But it's up to you to choose differently. This is why I say controlling yourself is the most powerful thing you can do, because you can choose what to believe. You can decide you're going to think certain things about yourself. So I've decided like I am an amazing medical director. I know this from different checkpoints, not just me filling my head, but in the flow of things, in seeing resolutions of problems I set out to solve, in the way that the staff talks to me freely, openly, discusses all of their needs, gives me regular feedback. I know I'm doing a good job. I also know I'm doing a good job because I passed my own metrics. But now I'm at the point where I'm no longer willing to do that for someone who does not appreciate that. And I did not wait for her validation or both of the owners' validation because maybe they just don't know how. I'm just going to give them the benefit of doubt, say they don't know how, because honestly, they probably know how and they just aren't doing it. But that's up to me to remove myself from situations that are wrecking my nervous system. Do you see how many plants I have? Okay. My plants have become my utter coping mechanism. I spent so much money on plants. I just reviewed my taxes and spent a ton of money on plants and plant supplies. And I have no regrets because it has brought me so much peace and so much joy. In fact, I'm late recording this podcast today because I spent an hour just looking at my plants, feeding them, watering them, putting little pesticides in them, just caring for them and looking at their growth, appreciating how my efforts directly translate to a positive result because I'm not getting that at work. And so what happened, I created a place in my home that allows me to see that when I commit to something, when I spend time learning about something and researching it and dedicating time to it and passion and love to something, that there is a positive result. And those are the kind of feedback loops I need to always have in my life. So change your social media algorithm so that you can have people like Lovey expressing exactly how you feel, giving words to your struggle. Change your home practices, your home hobbies, so that you can see progress for yourself, so that you can see the love that you put out in the world reflected back to you. And change your environment. I talked about this last episode. Change your environment when you don't like who you are or how it's being reflected back to you. Those are the powerful statements. So drop a comment. Let me know how you guys are changing. I'm so glad you continue to listen to me and check in. I did not plan for this episode to be this long. I got to run because I literally have to be in the clinic in 35 minutes and it takes me 25 minutes to drive there. So I'm going to see y'all later. But have a good week. And I would love to hear back from you all. Thank you so much for always tuning in and for creating this safe space for me to express myself. I really value this space and I gave it up for a while because of the workload from this company, but no more. I'm back. I'm back to share and to be creative and to foster community with you all. Love you guys. Bye. Millennium Peace Sign out. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.